The Great Siege of Malta is the grand kahuna of the historical events surrounding the island. Despite it happening so long ago, about 500 years, give or take a decade, many Maltese still have a soft spot for it, taking it on as a part of their national identity. An undeniable sign of bravery and valour. Even Voltaire wrote about it all the way from France. Rien n'est plus connu que le siège de Malte, he said. Nothing is more well known than the Siege of Malta. But is that truly the case? Well, here are 5 myths about the Great Siege often thought to be true. Number 1. The siege caught the Maltese and the Knights off guard. No, it didn't. Gozo was raided in 1551, 14 years before the infamous siege, meaning that the Knights knew of the threat the Turks posed. So much so that Grand Master La Valette beefed up Malta's defences. In 6 months he ordered the strengthening of Fort St. Angelo at the tip of Birgo, as well as the construction of 2 new forts, Fort St. Michael in Senglia and Fort St. Elmo in Mount Gebaras, now Valletta. He also appealed to Emperor Charles V and the Pope to send military assistance. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Number 2. Stories tell of a massive army of blood-hungry Turks, about 40,000 strong, preparing to battle against a measly, 4,000 peasants clamouring to defend themselves. When it comes to numbers, though, it seems bards took a hefty dose of inspiration from King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans.
This is Sparta!
Recent findings say that the Turkish army stood between 9,000 and 20,000 men. The Maltese forces stood at around 8,000, including the knights themselves. Were we still outnumbered? Sure, but not by that much. Number 3. It was all about religion. Some might be tempted to say that the main motivation for the siege was Christianity's rise as an empire in Europe and beyond during the 16th century. It was about the Crusades and the repression of Islam. Well, yes and no. Yes, there was religious tension at the time. However, the war was, as always when it comes to Malta, more about strategic position. The order had been disrupting Turkish trade, like the scrappy pirates that they were, for years. This was hardly an unprovoked attack. This was retaliation. Number 4. The Maltese faced the odds and emerged victorious through sheer tenacity and bravery. We already spoke about the massive sense of pride the Maltese have when it comes to this particular victory. The reality, though, is that Lady Luck also played her part. The Turks shot themselves in the foot when they set their sights on taking St. Elmo first. This predictable move meant that La Valette had time to prepare and ordered the garrison of St. Elmo to fight to the last breath until help arrived from the Sicilian king. It didn't, but wishful thinking worked wonders. Number 5. The Turks were too scared to ever come back. False. After a battle like that, the Turks knew the island was strongly defended, so they just bypassed it. Why would someone walk into a battle they could avoid? For the next few centuries, they found their way around quite tidily and saved themselves the hassle. Bonus round. True fact, it was brutal. Yes, it was. The Great Siege was not a pretty sight. The Ottomans crucified knight prisoners' headless bodies and set them afloat across the harbour. Ottoman prisoners were beheaded and heads used as cannonballs in retaliation. Sometimes they even had their mouths stuffed with pork. Now, if you want to know more about the current studies being conducted around the subject of the not-so-great siege, pick up your free copy of Think today.